Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great day here. For those of you who's joining us, we do a little bit of everything on this channel, including DIY, automotive, machining, pinball, you name it, we do it. All right, today we are talking back about the Barndominium because, wow, I've had a lot of comments. Some of you saying, wow, that was extremely expensive, way more than I thought it would be. So let's talk about the numbers again. So when I said we built this Barndominium, I wasn't saying we built it for the cheapest price we could, but this is what we actually spent and what we've got here. With that being said, these are some of the places that we could have easily saved some money on and brought the price down a good bit. So let's jump to those. All right, let's talk about concrete because that is one place we could have saved. You know, most house foundations are typically going to be 4-inch thick, 3.5 to 4-inch thick is what they typically are. When you talk about the actual slab, not the footers or anything of that nature, but the slab itself. We decided to go 5.5, 6, whatever you want to call it, all the way through the entire building. And the main reason was because in the back, for sure, we are planning on eventually probably putting a lift in there. We have a big boat. We got skid steer that we're running in and out sometimes. So we have heavy stuff going in and out of there. And we want to make sure that slab was going to be there, not crack up and have issues with it later on. So we decided to go 5.5/6 all the way through. Now, the other big factor we could have saved on is the building itself. Okay, we went red iron building. You could have done this multiple ways. I've noted in the past, you could have done it as a pole barn style, stick built. We have a 60 by 90 shell that is 16-foot eave heights. And technically we have all of that storage space because the house portion, although it's the house, we have a complete floor deck up there that we could store stuff, or we can actually double our square footage of the house relatively easy. So we could, you know, we have a lot of space there. You guys also have to keep in mind that we put a standing seam roof on this thing, and it's not a typical house standing seam roof. This is a commercial grade 2-inch high standing seam roof, 24 gauge panel. So it's not a lightweight roof. It's not a thin roof. It is a good commercial grade roof. That alone is pretty expensive itself as an option. So we could have saved going with a typical R panel on the roof and saved quite a bit, but you would have fasteners exposed, possibly creating leaks later on, especially as time goes on and the washers dry out. Ask me how I know, because our shop is that way and we have washers that I've had to go up and replace several times, although it's taken a while. Now, we also could have saved by not doing the wainscoting. We could have also saved by only doing the front portion or the two sides you see. But if you're going to halfway do it, you might as well do it all the way around. It just doesn't look right if you don't. So we could have saved there as well. Now, we also went with a 412 pitch. Now, we actually had to have a 412 pitch on the portion that we lived in for the county. That is one of their requirements. Now, we could have went lesser pitch than that, but that added to the cost as well for the cost of the building. Now, the garage doors, that is another place we could have saved. Now, we opted for a 16 wide, 8-foot tall garage door. We could have put a standard 7-foot high, could have went wider, you know, we could have changed that some, saved a little bit, especially going with a non-insulated doors. Both of these doors are insulated, thick doors. We try to get something that's going to hold up and last throughout the years. Along with, they also have the side mount motors versus like the typical back mount. Like my house has the typical one on the, you know, behind the motor or behind the door that mounts. A little bit more money, but it kind of frees up that ceiling space and you don't have that big ugly thing hanging there. Plus, these side motors are faster than at least my garage door downstairs. Now, the insulation, we probably could have saved a little bit on as well. We did open cell in the entire building, but we wanted to go back with rock wool between the house and the shop because we wanted that for the soundproofing. I said people say about spray foam. Well, honestly, the problem is open cell is not a very good sound insulator. Now, closed cell, I think, would be much better. I'm not really sure. I think it's better on sound deadening than open cell. But rock wool, very good. A little expensive, but it made the most sense. We really wanted that, and it has done a fantastic job. We completely isolated that game room, and with the game room door shut, you can sit in the living room and watch TV while people are playing games and having a good time, and it doesn't bother you at all. So, well worth spending extra money on that. You could save there. You didn't have to insulate that. We also could have saved on the doors. So all the doors are masonite. They're fully cored doors. Could have went with hollow doors. Could have saved there. The flooring, we could have picked simpler flooring. Could have went with something that was, there's stuff in the dollar plus square foot if you wanted to. We didn't want to go that route. It was not a floor that parents liked, so we stepped up and paid a little more for it. The cabinets. Yes, we could have went to Home Depot and Lowe's and bought particle board cabinets, put them together, and had a cheaper cabinet set. But that was not what they wanted. We wanted something nice. The same cabinets like I have in my house. They're all custom built. They're all made of real wood and plywood. No particle board anywhere in there. They're finished on the inside with a nice clear varnish. Of course, the outside stained or however you want them done, he'll do them. The hardware. All these things add up to, a pretty big cost, but it's at the same time, this is your house. This is something that you're living in for a long time. So do it right the first time so you don't have regrets. Countertops. Pick something out you like and put it in there. Don't just settle just to settle because of the sake of money. Because at the end of the day, while yes, you're still trying to stay at a budget price, at a certain budget number, at the end of the day, you want to make this thing what you want. You want to live in this thing. You want to enjoy your house. You want to, live in something that you really like. Now that also brings me to the game room. We spent a good bit of money in the game room and wanted to make sure we had enough power outlets and enough breakers for that room that no matter how many games we put in there, we should never ever trip a breaker, period. So we have got quite a few circuits in that game room. We have outlets throughout the entire game room that we could literally stack games in there side by side, stacked up as tight as you can, and we've got an outlet for every game in there and enough circuits to be able to handle it all. But we could have saved going down to a lesser gauge wire, 14 gauge wire, 15 amp. We could have, not put as many outlets in there. And that also brings back to the shower. This shower is pretty massive. I mean, we could have easily went back with a standard size shower, but you've got a nice rain head. You've got 2 showers in there, shower wand. Like, it's a pretty big shower, and we could have saved on tile by going, smaller size. We could have saved on glass. We wouldn't have to use so much glass in there. The toilets, I know they sound crazy, but toilets can go from $100 to $1,000 plus. Now, these are a little bit more expensive of a toilet. They do seem to flush pretty good. Take that however you want, but they do seem to be pretty good toilets. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a toilet. But that's what my dad wanted, and that's what they got. Now, we also could have saved by not pouring so much concrete on the outside for the porch area and for the driveway portions that we've added in there. But they wanted that 12-foot wide porch and wanted it to wrap around really nice. And it's a big, nice porch, but you could have easily changed the size of that, gone down to 10-foot or even 8-foot. You could have made it 10 foot one way. You could have done it a million ways and saved money there. So that could have been another way of saving money. Now, you also got to think of the area that we're in. So we're just south of Atlanta. We're really still in the metro area. Unfortunately, COVID brought on a whole lot of challenges for everybody, let's be honest. And I built my house here, literally next door to this Barndominium. And in 2019, we started it, finished in 2020. I have all my numbers from where I built my house. I know what we're going into building this thing. And the problem is things have went up a lot since then. Just in a couple of years, that the housing, not only the housing market itself had went up, but material costs had gone through the roof. And we started this thing in 2022 and we just finished it. So we were in kind of the worst time to build to an extent, but it's either keep waiting, hopefully it comes down, or it may go up some more. You got to make a decision at that point. And it was like, it's time, just go ahead and do it. Let's get it over with, done. So that didn't help any being during that time because wood is high. Everything's high. Electrical was high. I mean, I remember back when I built my house, for instance, a roll of 12-2 wire ran $60 a roll from Home Depot and Lowe's. That was 2019, 2020, somewhere right in there. I can't remember when we got the wiring, but it was literally $60 a roll. It had gotten over to like $170, $180 during this build. Now we did everything we could to source it cheaper, which goes back to we have 400 amp service in this. We have 200 amps that services the house. We have another 200 amps that service the back portion of the building. That adds in the cost of things. but you could go with just a 200 amp service. Another place that my parents kind of splurged on was that front door. The front door is it's a big wrought iron door. It's not super tall, but it's big and wide and very heavy doors and very well built. And that was a pretty big chunk of change as well. So you could have went with a smaller front door, could have went with a single front door, could have saved there. Now let's talk about that flooring that we have upstairs. We could have went with something cheaper there, but we ended up going with Advantech. You could have went with just any type of 3/4 type of tongue and groove flooring there to put in. Saved a little bit there, but we wanted something good, robust, something that was going to hold up and last. So we went with Advantech. They've had a lot of good reviews, so we stuck with that. Now I say all this to say that there are ways to save. When we built this Barndominium, we didn't build it for as cheap as we could build it. I mean, we saved where we could. So we did a lot of labor ourselves and things of that nature, some of this stuff. But at the same time, we were trying to build for what my parents wanted, and something that was going to last and hold up for a very long time. And that's why we went the direction we did. That's why it cost as much as it did. I say all this to say there are a million ways to build a house. There are a million ways to build a barndominium. So many things that you can change in there to make the cost less or more. So it's not this is exactly what it's going to cost. And the area you are in makes a big difference. We're in the metro Atlanta area, just south of it. So we still have pretty high labor costs, unfortunately. We are not in BFE, so we can't necessarily, unfortunately, get those good rates that sometimes these guys in the middle of nowhere get. But that's part of it, where we're at. So when I tell you guys this is some of the stuff you could have saved on, these are some of the big things that you really could have saved some money on, or you could have spent more money on. I mean, it's not like we even spent the highest amount we could have spent. You could have spent even more money on it if you wanted to. Countertops and cabinets. You could get really elaborate with this stuff. No matter how you build it, whether you're building a house or a building or whatever, if you start adding standing seam roofs and things of that nature, it adds the cost quite a bit. So those are just some things to keep in mind. That's going to wrap it up for this one, but stay tuned because we still got more coming up, including about some of the things I wish I would have done a little different, or things I wish I would have known going into building these types of things. Not to mention, still got more of my truck. I know for you guys out there that have been watching about the truck, it is coming. I have got a second oil analysis that I'm a little bit leery of, unfortunately, but it may not be a big deal, but we'll see what happens. And we got more DIY coming up. I've got a desk that I'm going to be making. We're going to be doing that with some epoxy and a river stuff. And yeah, we got plenty more machining. We got it all. So stay tuned. But thank you guys. We'll catch you next time.